I like sports. I like the New York Rangers hockey club. They're very bad this year. It's disappointing to me. We good to go? I got a thumbs up. That means I think I'm good to go. Okay. Is everybody ready? We're all here. We're all sitting down. We all have our computers and or other devices that we'll be using to program today ready to go with the GB Studio installed. And if so, hello. Let's do a brief introduction. This presentation is going to be dense. I'm going to do my best. If you have programmed before, most of it won't be too confusing to you. And if you have questions, we'll answer them afterwards. Why would you listen to me? Well, I'm Tristan. I'm a game producer here in New York at a company called Arcadium. We make games for mostly seniors, like crosswords and mahjong and solitaire. And I help second and third party developers publish their games on our platform. I have a product development MBA from the Rochester Institute of Technology. I dropped out of the Rochester Institute of Technology game design program, so that's a fun fact. And I've been programming in GB Studio for about 6 months. I met Blake through Magical Drop 3, and I am America's best player, and there's no question about that. And, whoa, even better. Okay, yeah. Oh, I think no, we're good. I also make a mean clarified cocktail. That's neither here nor there, but if you're interested in learning about that too, I can teach you that as well. Why would you use GB Studio? Well, it's free. That's great. Everybody loves free things. It's really easy to learn. It's a visual coding language. If you've ever used like RPG Maker, it should feel very familiar to you. But if you are somebody who likes the advanced stuff to do some wizardry, you can override a lot of the visual code with like their own custom scripting thing, which is very interesting. It exports and runs on real hardware. I actually have my games here with me. So here's my Game Boy from when I was like 7. And it has my game on it, and you can play it, and it's really cool. You can also, there's like a growing community of people who are supportive for this. There's lots of assets on itch.io for free. There's people who have made all sorts of third-party plugins to improve the functionality of GB Studio, and there's more coming out all the time. And you didn't hear this from me, but it also exports to NES now. So if you learn how to use GB Studio, you can download BB Studio, which is its own thing, and build the NES game, which is pretty cool too. Indie devs love GB Studio. Itch.io is full of indie games made in GB Studio. Corporations love GB Studio. Both Nike and McDonald's have made GB Studio games, which is pretty cool. And I love GB Studio, and if I didn't, I wouldn't be here talking to you. These are the 2 games that I have made recently. Hatsune Miku Bomb Squad, which is a puzzle game based on a Neopets minigame. This is my magnum opus. This is a banger. It also has I think 6 custom Hatsune Miku tracks that I made inside of the GB Studio tracker. And Carpe Diem, which is like a slice of life Pokemon game where you don't catch or battle any Pokemon. Well, I guess you catch them, but with like a fishing rod, and then you put them back, right? So, you know. So here it is. Here's a picture. You saw my Game Boy, but this is what it looks like on a pile of stuff when I was taking an aesthetic photo of the game that I put onto my own Game Boy. It's very cool. You have to order knockoff cartridges because you can't overwrite a real cartridge, but anyhow, it still works. So before we start, this is a picture of a Game Boy taken apart. There's not a lot going on there, right? So because Game Boy Studio games can work on a real Game Boy, we're going to have a lot of limitations, right? So we're going to look at them. I will remind you of them later as we're working. So let's talk about the limitations to the visuals, right? First off, everything's going to be separated between like a background layer and like a sprite actor layer. The backgrounds, everything needs to be on an 8x8 grid. The actors will, also adhere to those same rules. The minimum size for a scene is 160 by 144 pixels. And the reason that is because that's how big the Game Boy screen is. You can't make anything smaller than the size of the Game Boy screen. Backgrounds can use 4 colors. We'll talk about those in a second. And there could be a background maximum of 190 unique tiles, which means every 8x8 square is counted towards this tile maximum. If you have more than 190, it can't hold all of that in its memory, and it starts having like this weird screen tearing effect. You could use that to your advantage, like I do in the Hatsune Miku game, to make it look like the screen is jittering, but you probably should adhere to that, otherwise it's going to yell at you. For sprites, they can only use 3 colors plus transparency, so they can't use that dark green color that's kind of in the middle on the color list that I showed. They could render 10 sprite tiles per line. So if you have a 16 by 16 sprite, which is what most sprites will be, if you think about like the character in like a Pokemon game, that is 16 by 16. You can only have 5 of them lined up next to each other. If any more than 5 of them are trying to draw on the same horizontal or vertical line, it won't draw them. They'll just be invisible and it won't work. Scenes can have 90 unique tile sprites, or sprite tiles. So every piece of a sprite counts as one of those tiles, every 8x8 piece. So don't have too many different animation states for your actors because you won't be able to draw all of them. And finally, you could have somewhere between 10 to 20 actors per scene, regardless of how, depending on how big the scene is. So small scenes could have 10, big scenes could have about 20. The supported colors are there. If you don't use them, GB Studio will just auto-convert any image you put into them to use those colors, which is kind of helpful, but also probably not the best. You should just use those colors. And in GB Studio, if you say that you want to make a Game Boy Color game, which is an option in GB Studio, you can then remap those colors to a variety of palettes that you make, but again, every palette can only have 4 colors in it. For audio, I'm not going to talk too much about this, but they support 2 different types of files. They can be built. There's a composition tool in GB Studio that you can use, this piano roll that I'm showing here, to make your own songs. There's 4 audio channels. There's 2 duty channels, which will carry the melody. There's a wave channel, which I like to think of as like a bass line, sort of. And there is a noise channel, which in my mind is like noise and or percussion. If you use sound effects, the sound effects will overwrite one of the duty channels. So you can't have music playing and sound effects playing at the same time. You will lose part of your music. And sound effects, they have a bunch of different ones. If you make sound effects today, I'll be very impressed by you because you have to build them in a completely different program, and it's very complicated, or at least too complicated for me. It's called Hammer FX. You could also put in WAV files, but they need to be really short, and they need to be super duper compressed, and they're going to kind of sound like shit, but they work. And VGM files I have never used, but somebody told me they work, so I put them here. So let's talk about using GB Studio itself now that we've gotten through all of the limitations. There's a bunch of game elements that you will see when you have GB Studio booted up. They're all listed kind of on the left-hand side of the screen. The first one is scenes. Those are the individual screens that your game will load. So let's use Pokemon as an example. Pallet Town, the outdoor section, is one scene, right? The interior of your house is another scene. The upstairs of your house is another scene. The inside of Oak's Lab is its own scene. When you transition from one area to the next route, that is a new scene. So every time you do some form of screen transition, that will be its own scene within the game. The scenes larger than the minimum dimensions. So if they're bigger than the 160 by 144, they will scroll automatically as the player explores them, which is kind of nice. There are also camera controls inside of GB Studio where you can force the camera to move if you needed to. Triggers and other events will allow you to swap between those scenes. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And you can set the type of scene on a scene-by-scene basis, and we will also talk about that in a little bit. But think about it like, a shoot-'em-up scene versus a point-and-click scene versus an adventure game scene. They have prefab types that we'll talk about. Prefabs are new to GB Studio, I think version 4. The first game that I made did not have these, and it would have been really helpful. Basically, it allows you to create either an actor, which is like a sprite or a character or something, or a trigger that will be reused in multiple locations. You could update the code once, and it updates them across all of the instances of that prefab character. This is great for like NPCs or triggers that will show up a lot in your game. And I think that's it, right? You can have prefab objects that do have slight changes from their base version, and when you click on them, it'll tell you, like, this has one difference from your base version. Either you can overwrite all of them to use that, you could keep it separate, you can revert it back to the regular kind, but they have been very helpful for creating like NPCs and things that will show up a lot. Scripts are chunks of code called by actors or scenes and can be used across various scenes. Similar to prefabs, you can make a change to one script and it'll affect all of the scenes that use that script or all of the actors that use that script, which is very handy. And these scripts also have like references in them, right? So I don't need to say this specific actor is going to do XYZ. I can say a actor is going to do XYZ. And then when I call that script, I can plug in what the actor should actually be, right? So I could have the same script used in 2 different scenes with two different actors or 2 different variables and plug those in real time to make it more flexible. And that's actually really helpful. And variables themselves, there are local variables which will be associated with like individual actors in the scene, but there's also global variables. Those are the ones that are listed on the side. I believe you could have up to like 500 of them. I've never needed more than like 100, but who knows what you're making. And they can store a bunch of different things, integers, booleans. They could store actor properties to determine which way people are facing or what tile somebody's on. They don't store strings. I don't think strings is a thing in GB Studio, or at least I have never run into them. So keep that in mind. And you could also use these to like do logical checks, right? If this variable is equal to X, do Y. Or you can use them within scripts to like set and store values, right? Increment this by whatever, increment their health, decrement their health, all of that will happen through your global variables. Events are these pre-made functions, right? It's a visual coding language, so all of the events are kind of written out for you if you want to use all the pre-made ones. There's a big list of them. When you hit the add event button, you will see all of them. They can be placed directly into actors, into triggers, into scenes, into scripts. They're used all over the place. There's a couple of different ways that they will fire, right? There's criteria that you need to meet for the event to fire. The ones that you'll see a lot are on initiation, right? So when the scene or the actor first loads, do this thing. On hit, so if it's hit by a projectile or runs into another character, do this thing. On update, which is called every frame, be careful with on update, because if you're asking it to do too much on update, it will bog the game down very significantly. But it is useful if you need to be checking something every frame. On enter and on leave are both for triggers. So when your character walks into a trigger area, when they enter it, do this. When they leave it, do that. Once one of these is triggered, right? Like once one of these things is met, like these criteria are met, it will run through every event that's listed there in order until it finishes. So if you include things that are like wait or open a dialog box, it will basically pause the game while it's waiting for it to do this thing. So please keep that in mind. The menu and the toolbar. So I'm going to show you a bunch of stuff right now just to help you understand what all of these different buttons do. I have color-coded them for your ease of use. If it's green, that means you'll probably use it a lot. If it's yellow, that means you might come across it today. And if it's red, I have never used it, and I don't know what it's there for. For green, right, the game world, that's where you view all of your scenes, all your actors, all your trigger. You're going to spend almost a majority of your time on this game world tab, because that's how you're viewing like the overarching connections between your game. See all sprites with the sprite menu. So you're going to use that a lot. So if you're animating any characters, they're all going to show up in this sprite menu. Images let you view background files. I've never needed to do that. I know what files are there. I uploaded them. Okay, so like why are you worried about that? If you want to write music today, the music panel is where you're going to do that. Sound effects let you preview sound effect files. You can do that directly from the event call. I don't know why you need this, but it exists. Palettes lets you create custom color palettes. If you're going to make a Game Boy Color game, you might use that today. Dialog review lets you look at all of the text in your game on one screen to make it easier to read through and proofread. You might use that, I don't know. And settings, you'll probably end up in here, but the default values and sliders to control some of the prefab scenes, which I will show you in a moment, all exist in this settings menu. This is where you choose if you want to make a Game Boy game versus a Game Boy Color game, or one that works on both. Now we're talking about the toolbar. So this little regular cursor looking guy lets you manipulate actors and scenes and triggers. You're going to use this all the time. This one lets you add new actors and scenes and triggers. You're going to use this all the time. This one lets you erase them. You could just hit the delete button, but you could use this if you want. I don't know. This one lets you add environmental collisions, the little brick wall. So you're going to probably need that at some point. And the last one lets you manually apply custom color palettes to backgrounds. This one is very cool and powerful. If you get to this in 2 hours, I will be very impressed. You probably could use your time better on something else. But if you are working on a big project later on and you want to custom paint individual portions of your background in a Game Boy Color game to give it a cool effect, you can do that. So now we're going to talk about scene types. I alluded to these a couple of times. Top-down 2D is a Pokemon-esque style game, right? You are four-way movement, up, down, left, right, and it's tile-based positioning. So you're judging people about which tile they are on the scene, not what pixel they are on the scene. The adventure one is closer to Legend of Zelda. You have 8-way directional movement, so you could walk on diagonals. It's pixel-based positioning. However, actor collision in adventure might be bugged, and I would double-check that before you make an adventure game. It was in the previous version of GB Studio. I don't recall if it is in this version. There is a plugin that probably fixes it, but just know that the default adventure one might be a little wonky. Shoot 'em up games like Project S11, auto-scrolling, you could go horizontal or vertical based on the settings of your game. You need to upload a scene that is much, much larger than the default dimensions so that it will know to auto-scroll when you set it to shoot 'em up. And platformer is cool because it has a bunch of pre-built physics sliders. So there's a walk, a run, a climb, a gravity, a jump. All of that's pre-built in. You could set sliders to see like how high should they jump, how fast should they accelerate, how fast should they fall from gravity. The platformer that's built in is pretty cool. There's also a Platformer Plus plugin that exists out there that's even better. But if you're going to build a platformer, a lot of that is already done for you. You don't have to program any of like the nonsense for the physics engine. It's already kind of built, and you could just adjust sliders. There's also a pointed click where the player is a cursor rather than a actor who walks around, and you could kind of just have free movement. You can click with the A and the B button to trigger interactions. I've used this to do like little CAPTCHA mini games inside of the games that I've built. If you want to build a point and click game, it's probably pretty quick to build anyway, so that might be a good choice for today. And the last one is just a logo. There's not allowed to be any actors or players on this screen. You could show just like very nice illustrations in a gallery or use it for the home screen of your game because there's no background tile limit. Before we talked about you could only have 190 unique background tiles because they have to save tiles for the memory for the characters. Well, the logo scene doesn't care about that. You could just render whatever you want so long as there's nothing else on top of it. So now we're going to construct a scene, right? First thing you got to do is you got to put some files into your program so that you can actually manipulate them in there. So in your GB Studio folder, GB Studio, projects, the name of your project, and then the assets folder is where you will find these. The two that are most relevant for today are backgrounds, which are the background of your scene. So you want to create a full image and just drag and drop that image into the backgrounds folder. I built this one in Tiled. There's probably other programs you could use that do similar things, but you make the full image before you drop it in there. Tiled is very helpful, namely because it helps keep track of all of those unique tiles to make sure that you don't end up with a scene that is too complex for the game to render. And then sprites, here's a blown up version of the sprite for my Pokemon game. I've made these in A-Sprite, I've made these in GIMP, Photoshop, Affinity, whatever you want to use. Any image editor will work for this. Again, it needs to be on an 8x8 grid, so make sure that you're working on a grid. It needs that transparency behind it, that bright green color, which will be very helpful just to make sure the game knows to be transparent. You could use a transparent PNG, but it's best practice to put the green behind it, so please put the green behind it. And again, like this character, because it's my main character, has a lot of different animation states associated with it, right? There's the casting the rod, there's the lifting the fish up out of the water. This is a lot of unique sprite tiles, right? So I can't have a bunch of these characters in one scene because the game can't hold that. So if you have a character that's not going to do anything besides stand in place, only upload the sprite of it standing in place. It doesn't need walking animations just in case you might need them. So trim everything down to the least amount of frames that you think you will need for it to accomplish what it's supposed to do in the game, right? So I have shopkeepers. They don't walk around, so they just turn around, right? So just make sure, keep that in mind. Once you have your sprite uploaded, you're going to need to start animating it. There's a couple of things to look at. We're in the sprites window now. First off, the animation settings. So this is where you choose, is it static, right? Does it just face one direction? Does it have 4 directions plus movement? And that helps determine this animation panel that it automatically populates. So you can see here it has all of the different idle versions plus the walking versions for each one that will automatically populate into the game for you. I would toggle the flip left and right unless there's some specific reason you don't need that, but mirroring it will save you sprites. If you want to add a new animation state, there's the little plus button next to the text that says animations. So if I want to add one that's specifically for like this character dying or this character doing a kickflip, right? I would hit plus, I would type in what it's called, and then I would animate that, and I can switch to those animation states through code in the game. Also note at the bottom, when you want to add a new frame, there's just the plus button here at the bottom. It's like a timeline animation sort of deal. You could copy and paste across them if that saves you time. You just can't copy and paste more than one frame at a time. Then we're going to talk about scene settings. So now I'm in my world view here, right? I have created a new scene, and there is this little section of the panel to fill out, right? There is the type of scene. So this is a top-down 2D. Again, that's the Pokemon style of 4-way movement and tile-based positioning. I set the background image for it. The size of the scene will always be the size of your background image. So make sure that your background doesn't have like extraneous stuff because the scene will automatically build itself to that size. And you pick the character sprite sheets, right? In this scene, my main character is an astronaut, so I've picked the astronaut sprite sheet. If I wanted it to be something else, I would just pick it from that drop-down menu there. You could also set your background palettes if you're playing a Game Boy Color game. You could set the starting position, which is represented by that orange cylinder with the triangle inside of it. That's the character starting position. And you could set their direction. So like in this scene, it starts with them facing up because they're walking into the thing, right? If they start facing the other way, it'll just look weird. So make sure to toggle all that stuff. It's very quick, but it'll save you some time. Now we're going to talk very briefly about scene initiation events. The scene that I just showed you, right, it doesn't need to do anything. The character is just in the room, and then the player has full control over them right away. In this scene, where I am loading in like a shoot 'em up style thing, I need to pass a bunch of information to the game. I need to set what kind of weapon my character has. I need to pass in how much health they have. I need to call a script to run my, my code to use my UI overlay. All of that will happen before the scene fades in. That fade in scene automatically kind of trigger is going to be put there by GB Studio, and it'll make a best guess as to where you think you actually want to fade in the scene. If I do put in an event that's something like player move to tile 5-4, right, it'll put that after the fade in because it wouldn't make sense for that character to enter the scene and then move there before you actually see the scene load. So the GB Studio will make a best guess as when to fade the scene actually in. So let's talk about events that you'll probably use today. Here's some common ones for the actor. Actor move to or actor move relative. Move to is like give them a specific point in space. Move to tile 3, 4. Move relative is doesn't really care where they are. It'll just move them 2 tiles north, right? 2 tiles minus X. Activate and deactivate. There's no like spawning things in GB Studio. Everything that needs to exist in a scene has to be in the scene when the scene first loads. It can't populate something new in real time. But you could place an actor into the scene, have it deactivated, and then when it needs to show up, you can activate it and place it where it needs to be. So deactivating actors, also helpful when they die and you want them to disappear. Activating actors if you need something that's already in the scene to start showing up. Set actor animation state. If you create those extra animation states, like I said before, do a kickflip, die, whatever it is, you can call from their default animation state and switch them to the new animation state. But just remember, you'll probably have to switch them back afterwards. If actor at position is just checking, are they somewhere? And if so, do X, Y, Z. For variables, right, variable set to true or false or variable set to value will be helpful so that you can like set player's health or set some sort of like logical Boolean check. Variable compare with value to say like, if this variable is true, do this, right? If this variable is not true, do that. Math function is also very helpful if you need to actually do math, but math function is relevant because this is where you set random number generation. So variable, math function, set to random, and then you put the range of the number that it could create, right? 1 to 10 for a 10% chance at something. One thing I do want to note, I actually didn't write it down here, but it comes to mind now. There is a event called seed random number generation. The Game Boy will always just use the same random number seed unless you tell it not to. And you need to also program it so that seeding random number generation is tied to a button because it takes too long and it skips over it if you don't put it attached to a button, which I don't know why that is, but that's the case. So if you are going to have random numbers in your game, make like a home screen with the start button. And when you hit the start button, seed that random number generation alongside the start button. Otherwise, every time you play the game, you will get all of the same random events in the same order. It's very strange. Dialogue and menu, displaying dialogue, displaying menu act sort of the same, but displaying menu and displaying multiple choice allows you to use your cursor and pick different options and then assign variables based on which option you picked, right? Is it a yes or no question? Do they answer yes? Set that to true. Do they answer no? Set it to false, and then check it and do something else. For scenes, changing scenes will happen a lot, right? You have a trigger, you walk into the trigger, change to this scene because you walked into the house. Storing and restoring scenes from stack will keep all of the scene information in place in case you need to come back to that same exact point in the screen. So for example, if I am walking through a town and I have a pause button in my game and I hit pause and it takes me to another menu for me to check my inventory, when I go back to the scene, I don't want to be at the start of the scene. I want to be where I was standing in town because that's what makes sense. So you want to store the scene to stack when you hit the start button to open the inventory menu. And then when you go back to the scene, you would restore the scene from the stack to get that same position and information that you had previously to load rather than just restarting the scene from scratch. The last one is joypad input. Sorry. Attaching a script to a button will overwrite whatever the normal, configuration for that button is. So A and B don't have anything assigned to them by default in a lot of the scenes, so you probably want to overwrite something there to make them do something specific. Or you can say, like, remove all of the button scripts from the D-pad so that during this cutscene, the player can't accidentally move themselves and fuck it up. And I think that brings us to the end of our presentation. So before I do a very quick walkthrough of building out a little scene, do we have questions about anything that I went through now?
Literally everything, but we don't have another.
We don't have enough time. I'll answer literally everything afterwards, and I will walk around and help. I told you it was going to be dense. There is a lot to learn very quickly, and 20 minutes is not a lot of time to teach somebody something. Okay, so let's do this. I will try to open GB Studio to the best of my ability. Yeah. What I am going to do here is, will this actually stay? No. No, it's not going to work. We're going to do this one-handed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load the sample project. The sample project in GB Studio is fairly powerful. It shows you all of the different scene types. They have a bunch of stuff already written in there to track quests or move between scenes and do all this fun, fancy stuff. I'm going to use that because it already has assets in it, and it'll help me show you something really quickly. If you are struggling or you don't know where to start today, right, start with the sample project and just turn it into your vision. Oh, that's better. Turn it into your vision moving forward, right? So I'm going to go in there. If you are going to create a project from scratch, you want to select this blank template, but I'm going to pick from sample project. There's also an old sample project from GB Studio 1. You don't need that. You want the new one. So hit create project. It'll take a second, and it will pop it up. Come on. Right, so when you open the sample project, you'll see something like this. I am on that Game World tab you can see here, right? So if I want to inspect sprites, I go to sprites. If I want to look at the Game World, I go to Game World. So let's do this. Let's go over here. Let's create a new scene, right? So I'm going to hit the plus button, go to scene. I'm going to place a scene. First thing I need to do is select a type and a background. Let's see what's available to me. Everything that is in my backgrounds folder will now show up on this drop-down menu. Let's pick the cave, because the cave is cool. The cave, because it's used in another scene, already has its collision drawn in, but if I was doing this from scratch, I would be able to go and draw in some additional collision. There's also a magic wand, so if every tile should be collision, right, that black space, I just turned every black tile into a collision tile, or I can, vice versa, turn it all off if I wanted to, right? But let's do this. Let's add a actor. Right? And when I add an actor, I can place where I want them to be. It'll ask me to pick a sprite sheet for that actor. Let's see what's available to us in here. There's a dog. I like dogs, so we'll put a dog there. Right? And what we need to do is we need to also, because the player starts somewhere else, I'm going to right-click on the scene, and I'm going to click as set to starting scene. It'll bring my player sprite sheet in, or my player little arrow here. I will choose the direction of that player so that they're facing the right way when they walk in. And we'll click back on the scene, right? So now when I hit play, what you should see is I'm going to be in this cave. And because I messed it up and all of these tiles are collision, I'm not going to be able to do anything, but you'll at least see the player and the dog render. The first time you try to launch the game, it's always going to take way longer than you anticipated. So be ready for that now. Wow, it's taking a lot longer than, see, I said it takes longer than you anticipate, and it's longer than I anticipated too, so that's how you know it's actually a long time. No, it's still going. There is a debugger down here. It'll pop up automatically if you mess something up, otherwise you probably don't need to view it. While it is building this, does anybody have any questions that are different? Wow. It's just because the game's so big. There we go. Okay. So now you see the scene has loaded. I am entering this cave. There's a dog in front of me, and I can't really go anywhere because there's no trigger to make me leave, and there's a bunch of all of this black space is accidentally collision. So let's do this. Let's remove all the collision from the black space. Let's also, in the scene, we're going to add a new event. We're going to display dialogue, and we're going to make it say, look, there is a dog. Right, now I load the scene. Should hopefully go way faster this time. There we go, way faster, right? Look, there's a dog. I'm going to hit a button to dismiss the text. It's probably going to be Z and X are going to be your A and B for the time being. And now that the collision's wrong, I can walk around, right? Cool. Now let's interact with the dog, right? You can see when I click on the dog sprite, there is an on interact event type here, right? So I'm going to add an event here. I'm going to make it display dialogue that says, you pet the dog. And then I'm going to add a sound effect. Where is my sound effects? Sound. Play sound effect, and the dog will make a noise. He's going to make like a little beep noise. Yeah, that's good enough for now. Right, I go into my scene. It's going to load again. Now I'm going to be able to walk up to the dog. I'm going to hit the A button. I will interact with the dog. It'll show the dialogue that says you pet the dog, and the dog will make a noise, and it'll happen every time I do it. Right, I pet the dog. It makes a little beep noise. I can walk around. I go back over to the dog. I talk to the dog again. Makes a little beep noise. Let's add one more thing before I send you off into the wilderness and you try to figure out what's going on. I'm going to add a trigger, right? So I'm going to add a trigger. I'm going to draw the shape of the trigger. So I made it a 2x2 square. On entering the trigger, I'm going to change scenes, and then I'm going to tell it which scene I want to change to. I'm going to change to this launch site, place where I should walk into the scene, or you could type it in here if you know the coordinates. So now I'm going to play my game. Come on, there we go. Okay, there's the dog. I walk up, I talk to the dog. Dog makes a noise. Now I'm done with this dog in this cave. I will leave the cave, and now I'm at the launch site, right? And again, like I said, the demo is set up with a lot of cool stuff. So if I walk into here, it's going to do some animation, and now I'm playing like a shoot 'em up level, right? So there you go. All this is kind of chilling in the regular project file, so I would recommend starting here. I think we're out of time for my demo, so let's stop, and I'm going to set you off. Godspeed. If you have questions, I'm going to be walking around, and I will help to the best of my ability.
If you want to explain anything else, that's okay. But before we get started with the game jam, just to announce a couple of things real quick. Maybe first off, it's super okay if you want to work with other people. So let's just do a real fast. Introduce yourself. Just say your name and just a Game Boy game. Not your favorite, not the least favorite, but just a Game Boy game. And we'll start with Tristan and go clockwise, whichever way you think that is.
Great. I'm Tristan, as you know, and a Game Boy game that I know is Pokemon, the trading card game number 2, Rise of Team Rocket. Or Great Rocket, sorry.
Well, a Game Boy game I know is, well, Pokemon Emerald is Game Boy Advance, but I will say that.
I'm Christina, and I've never had a Game Boy, so I feel very on the spot.
Oh, okay.
I know there's a lot of Pokemon games, so that's my embarrassing answer.
Good.
Hello, I'm Sam. Tetris.
I'm William. Super Mario 3 Wario Land. I'm Eve. I enjoy Melon Journey.
That's a new one. It's a modern Game Boy game.
Yeah, pretty cool. Really, really cool.
Never had a Game Boy also. I'm Gwen. I just heard about this game called Hatsune Miku Bomb Squad.
Banger, whoever made that, really cool person.
I'm Nico, Shide, and Minish Cap. That's me.
It's true. We have folks in the back, so let's go to them.
I'm Kyle. I've also never had a Game Boy, but I just like Tetris
Yeah, Tetris
and whatnot.
is on that, that's true.
I'm Annie, and I think the only Game Boy game I played was Yoshi's Island.
Okay.
I'm Alahai. I have Game Boy Advance, and I played Let's Ride Sunshine Stables, a horse game.
I'm Boris, and the Game Boy game I know was Wario Land 2.
I'm Jay. I had Battletoads.
I'm Ian. I like Tetris. Some of the games like Tetris.
We could all do these.
Everybody can enjoy Tetris. It's a popular game.
I'm Hanley. I'll throw my hat in the ring for Wario Land 3.
I'm Chris, and I'll go with the original Kirby's Dream Land.
Josh, Frogger.
Frogger, nice.
I'm James, and I'll go with M&M's Mindy's Madness.
Oh. And we had you join us at the end. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Nar. I'll just say Shrek, the game. I was on Game Boy Advance, but yeah.
We'll accept it.
Well, my name is Blake, and I'm just gonna say Pocket Bomberman. Pocket Bomberman.
Pocket Bomb.
Yeah. One more thing, Tristan, if you want to check Discord real quick.
Sure.
We're gonna announce the theme again for the theme of the game jam. You don't need to do it so exactly as what the theme is. Oh, check it on my computer.
Oh, okay.
Check it on the
I didn't know if this was like a private thing.
No. Just so don't click it just yet. But it's all. Don't click it just yet.
Okay.
Oh, actually, it looks like they gave a. Well, I'll show you how to do it. This won't be the actual theme, but we always do a Wikipedia random theme. Again, you can take any sort of inspiration you want from this. You don't need to do it so literally. Usually, people do it very, very literally. But just click on the link. This is just an example of what it will be. So this is the style of thing. We're just going to go to Wikipedia. And then, so just click on the upper left-hand Wikipedia. And then, just click that. And then the hamburger. And then we're going to click, don't do it yet.
Okay.
But we'll get a drum roll first. So if everyone can give a drum roll for the Wikipedia random theme. 3, 2, 1, go. All right. So it looks like it's Christian Wilhelm Allers,
a German painter and printmaker.
Yeah. Do you want to read just some different excerpts? Just anything that comes to mind for you, Tristan?
Well, yeah. Apparently he's hot, so his self-portrait, he is looking good. He's a naturalist, right? So he likes to do things from scenes from everyday life. So maybe you're making a slice of life game, travel reports, or portraits of other people. Here's some books. That's a big list of books, and they're all in German, so I'm not trying that. And here's Here's a print that he made. Oh, that's pretty cool. Some guy getting his liver eaten by an eagle, I think. No, it's Ganmede. Ganmede. Yeah, I definitely butchered that one too. But yeah, this. That dog. No, we don't like that. Here's a boat. It could be a nautical game. He loved nautical things.
So if you want to post that in the Discord, feel free to post that link. And the game jam is started. Feel free to move to whichever room you feel like. If it's too crowded in here, you can sit in the bar or outside if it's warm enough. I'm going to
share the link.
We're going to go until about a little after 2.
Oh, no. I'm going to share the link to the presentation also. I put the link to the presentation in there if you want to read through and double check anything like the color codes or something like that. I'll be floating around. I'm not going to be building anything myself. Flag me. Ask me questions. If you have a specific thing you want to build, I can help you brainstorm how to get there. Again, the basic scene setup from the tutorial in GB Studio might be a good place to start. If you also want assets and you don't want to make them in 2 hours, itch.io, go and for the GB Studio tag in the assets section, there is a lot of free assets you can pull from. Some of them are pay what you want. Some of them might cost you $1, but they're good. And having something to start from will probably save you a lot of time and headache. Best of luck. And make, what's his name again? Christian Wilhelm Ehlers proud with whatever you make. Thank you.
We're going to spend about 10 more minutes, and then Tristan's going to go over how to post your games on itch.io.
Okay, I've flagged down most of everybody. So very quickly, this is going to be very easy. When you are ready to export your game, make sure it's saved. Go to, I believe, Game, Export As, and you have three options. ROM is the actual Game Boy ROM. Then if you want to play it on an emulator, you would export it as the ROM. It'll export just the ROM file. That's all you need. If you want to export, should I? Okay, we're gonna do this one more time. Okay, first stream. This is real. This is the real export process. So save your game. Go to Game. Export As. You have three options. Export for ROM is the ROM file. That's all you get is like the .gb or .gbc file. You could play those in any emulator straight up and they'd work, right? Export for web is what we're going to use today. This is how you're going to get the file that you would upload to itch.io. So I'm going to export web, right? It's going to run this thing. And when it stops, it's going to open this folder. Inside of my project folder for the project, right? So, oops. Right, in the Game Jam project, there's now this build folder. In the build folder, you'll see the web. You can compress it. And name it. This is elephant paint. So once you have exported it and you're seeing it in the build folder as a folder, zip it as the .zip, name it whatever you want.
Wait, which one are we zipping again?
It'd be the web folder inside of the build
The
folder.
entire web folder.
Correct. Now I'm going to do my best Blake impression and try to upload something to Blake's itch. No, why is this right click?
I'm gonna switch accounts.
Okay. Yeah. If you have uploaded stuff to itch before, any sort of web build thing, it is pretty much the exact same process, right? You'll go to your dashboard, you'll create a new project, you will tell it is a web game, you will give it the zip and mark the checkbox that says, I want to, play this in web. Oops. There, okay. All right. We'll call it 2-hour game jam. Elephant paint. All right. We will go and it is a HTML project. It is a game. It is no payments because, right? Upload file. I need to find the actual file folder. Give me 1 second. Where? Oh, come on. There we go. Right, so it uploads my zip. I will mark this plays in the browser.
What's the size?
So that's the thing. It needs to be in the same aspect ratio as 160 by 144. So you could use like, I'm so bad at math, 320 by 288. It's going to be really small, whatever the next size up from that is, right? But embedded in the page. And let's call it a draft for now. Save and view page. All right, it's going to load the game. Hit run game. There it is. Woo! We broke some stuff in this one. I think we have too many tiles in this scene. But you can paint. Look, I'm painting a little flower. There you go. The game is live, and you can play it on our web device. Yeah, 320 by 288. I forget which size I use. I've upscaled it even more than that for the games that I normally upload. It's somewhere in like the 500 something pixel range, but I don't remember the exact numbers. Once, is it?
Yeah.
144. Yeah, I use it was 640 by 576. Neither of those numbers are very fun, but they are real. 720 by 800? Is that? Okay, it works out at some point. Anyhow, that's how you do it. Take a little bit of time, finish up your games, get them uploaded. We'll do the presentation process in a little while. So yeah, hang around, keep jamming.
So it's the .gz file.
No, so if you have the .gb file, that means you exported the ROM and not the web build, right? So if you get the GB file, that means you clicked the wrong
Oh, it
option.
wasn't a web folder.
Yeah. Oh, in the web folder?
It's just a file. I was trying to figure out which file.
Yeah, you just zip the whole web folder
Oh, perfect.
because you want the index.html. Blake, our scene has too many tiles in it. That's our issue. That's why it looks all wonky.
Oh, yeah, I'm not playing a new background.
Yes, okay. All right, hang with us. We'll wrap up soon, and we will start the presentation process.
I mean, it works. Just to double clarify. Yeah, it looks the glitched out thing looks sick. You know, it's unintentional, but kind of looks. Oh, and did you tell people about the GM page?
I did not.
I'll shut off the list. Do you know how to submit to the jam page? Or if you want to just share people.
Just make sure this works.
Oh, the aspect ratio is a
Yeah,
little
the aspect
goofy.
ratio is all funny.
What's the... If you just search it, does something come up?
Why did that not work?
Let's just see with... G...
I can just. I know what I'm actually gonna. 480 by 432. Sounds right. Yeah, that looks
Alright,
right.
cool. Alright, sick.
Okay.
Alright.
Do you want to submit it to the jam page?
Yeah. We're gonna look at all the games, or we'll at least play a select few of them. Again, if you haven't submitted your game, just make sure that it's public on itch, and then just make sure if you're in the game jam, I posted it in the Discord, so again, you should be able to find the link here. Here's the link, and yeah, just click submit your project, and you should be able to find it within the list. What did you name the project?
2-hour game jam elephant.
Okay. Are you on the Discord?
No, I'm not.
All right, I'll make a QR code one more time. If you want to scan it. See that? You can. Oh, well, there you go. Does anyone need help submitting to itch? It's only a couple games.
I'm just glad image upload is working again. It's been broken for like since the.
The title is essentially up, so I would go through and.
Oh,
Take it down because fun come up.
You can always upload a new version later if you want to tidy it up. But in the interest of time.
I saw some people mention that.
Yeah, on the Twitter video.
So just go to the Game Jam Club page, and then it's this one. I'll post it one more time. If anyone needs help, Tristan or I could help you. And yeah, if you just take a screenshot of your game, usually that's a pretty good image. Anyone else need help before we get started? Or are there only 5 games?
There's 7 now.
All right, cool. I guess maybe we'll look at the game Tristan and I made first, and then we'll go from there.
This is an exploration in having too many tiles in your scene. You'll see.
It looks
For
cool though.
dramatic effect.
Add the full screen button.
Oh, I don't even know. Oh, wow.
There we go.
Enter when you are.
Oh, forgot to pipe in the audio. Do you want to read this, Tristan?
Be not afraid, for I am the Wilhelm foretold. I sense great potential in you. Find the brush in the cave below, then return. I made a lot of use of the existing GB Studio demo assets. You lift the lid, a sense of self is found within. You got Aller's paintbrush. We gotta talk to Wilhelm again now. Does Wilhelm do not want to speak with you? Oh no. Okay,
Oh,
go to
no.
your house then, which is represented by this floating staircase.
Oh no, can I not get in?
Can you not get in?
Oh no,
Oh no.
we crashed the game.
State, baby.
And that's why you need to test the game.
This is why you need to test the game.
All right. Should we show a demo of what's supposed to happen?
Yeah, just drag that orange dot into the... Yeah, perfect. What's supposed to happen is you get to do the game's namesake, elephant paint. Express yourself on the canvas. Let the world know who you are. This is your final task. Press start when you're done. So you can hover over the canvas, and there's a bunch of different sprites that are on there that you can use the point and click to kind of animate and paint whatever you'd like. Beautiful. And then when you hit enter, I knew my faith was not misplaced. It is a masterpiece. But now it's time to wake up. Till next time.
All right, whose game should we try now? Any volunteers? Oh, let's do rock paper scissors. Who goes first?
I'm just gonna throw a rock, and then we'll find out if he wants to go first or not.
Wait, oh, okay.
Yeah, you see? Yeah, there you go.
All right, Sam wins.
Yes!
Do you want to narrate?
Yeah. This is called There's a Coin Somewhere. Coin? I don't know what that is. I found something. You want to see? Well, too bad. I'll give you a clue. Actually, I won't. Hey, there's a coin somewhere, dummy. This is New York City. Here's a clue. The coin is in the left bottom corner.
And then we find out he lied, right?
Oh, I meant the right one. You hear about that CEO that got whacked? Crazy.
Oh, it is New York. Okay. Confirmed. Oh,
Oh,
could that be it?
wow, that coin is right there, dummy. I really care about you, but I can't help you. You found the coin. Cool. You can finally die.
All right, I guess it's Chris's turn. Wait, which one is yours?
I'm Lampane, remember?
I forgot.
No, having another K Chris over here is confusing.
With the same picture too.
So yeah, your name is Christian Wilhelm Allers. You are an artist. You are also hot, but outside it is not hot. In fact, it is a perfect day for drawing. Can you find your watercolor supplies? chest. It is empty. Where is your paintbrush? This chest is full of crayons. You don't need crayons. This chest is full of smaller chests. Woof! We go walkies? You haven't found everything yet. Keep looking. Why is there a duck in here? Oh, you left the door open. Again, you take 1 psychic damage. This is not your cat. The cat is chewing on a paintbrush. You take the brush. You also take 2 damage. You open the chest. There is a notebook. The first page is a self-portrait. God, you're hot. You take the notebook. This chest is empty. You might have too many chests. The container store was a mistake. Nothing in here except sad memories. You miss your friend Frederick Alfred Krupp. Yeah, you found all your stuff. Time to head out. The end.
All right, these are pretty short. We'll look at a couple more. Who wants to share theirs? Any other volunteers? Oh. We'll go with you, and then which one is yours?
Let's delete this. You'll see it in like 3 seconds. It's the one by Mimi. It's the blue one.
Delete this.
Delete this PHIO page or something.
Meow, meow.
You have to try and move with the arrows.
Scroll. Wait.
And try and click the cat.
Upload the zip.
Press A on the cat if you can. You win. That's it.
Ooh.
Which one's yours?
That was pretty cool.
Sorry, I was mesmerized by them. It's Christian Studio. Oh, it's the arrow keys and then.
Oh, okay.
Button. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Would you like to read
Yeah.
it?
Wow. I think I'm in artist Christian Wilhelm Aller Studio.
Oh,
Yeah. Sorry.
sorry.
This is really me testing the functionality, so don't mind everything else.
Oh.
Okay, something's going on
Do you wanna play through it?
No, it's very short.
Okay.
I'm just demonstrating my the skills I've learned.
All right, cool.
Not meant to be much often.
We'll look at maybe 1 or 2 more. Any other volunteers? Which?
So I could like refresh the page just say
I don't know if it works.
to make noise. Oh.
Yeah, there it is.
Would you like to narrate?
I can't hear you. What was that? I love this song.
Mustache man. I love this song. You're not supposed to be here.
Why big a farm thing? Also, who is propane?
What are you looking at on your head? I'm pissing here.
All right, we'll take a look at. I guess we've done a lot of them. We might as well finish them.
We have a new submission as well. Yeah.
All right. Should we do Canvas of Eternity? Whose is this? All right. If you want to narrate, if there's any dialogue.
Have you met the old man? He lives in the cave north of the town. Legend has it he was once a great painter. He is a bit strange now. The oldest tree in the village. Meow.
Wow.
I sure wish I was an artist. I'd be painting all the time.
I feel like you could have zoomed in on the guy all Ren Stimpy.
Wouldn't this make a great painting? An artist must always have tools. Take this paintbrush and explore. You receive the paintbrush. Oh, and remember to display your art in your house. Try to get 3 paintings hung up this week. Ah.
Copy that.
Oh, that doesn't do anything down there. Good try.
Those are all your sites.
Mm-hmm. And then you can go and check out. Well, I couldn't get all 3 of them to work.
I think you can.
All right, that's
All right.
it.
Yeah, we may as well finish up because we only have a couple more. Should we look at these last couple? Whose are they? Which one is yours? And would you like to read?
Logical judgment. Some artists are in prison for being gay. Most artists pay rent or are tenants. All artists have inflamed hands. No artists like people. And then you have to click on the star. Do you want to be the next gold star even if the vultures and plug-ons keep coming? Give up later, give up for good. Give up later. After becoming very old, you have a devoted group of people's admirers and assistants. You have a home studio and the esteemed village waiter. Keep going. You do this though it freestyles until there's a new left.
All right. And I think there is one last one, Pipe Dream. Should we play this one? All right, and please narrate if there's any dialogue.
German Navy corner. There has been a pipe bomb reportedly located in Hamburg, Swiss. No, What's the gun looking for? Man, I love losing. I should have wrote those words
Jesus.
at the top of the email.
Well, they're not the CEO.
Well,
Any clues of where to go?
Go to the cat.
Oh,
Oh, nice puzzle game.
should I check in?
Your python is another cat?
Oh, it's a flower.
And that's it. All right. All right. Thanks everybody for coming out. Just a quick announcement before everybody leaves. Let's just look at the next couple events. So on Tuesday, which is in a couple of days, we're going to be doing a play test. So if you want to see what other people are making in the city and outside of the city, a lot of people come to this from all over the place. But come and check out what people are working on. If you're working on something for MagFest, it's a good time to play test your game or check out what other people are doing. And next month, we're going to be making VVV levels on the 11th. After that, we're going to be doing RenPy dating sims on February 8th for Valentine's Day. And yeah, we're going to try to be doing a different engine every month. This is the first repeat one, but if you have any suggestions for any short, easy engines to use, make sure to post it in the Game Jam Club Discord. Give it up again for Tristan for doing the workshop. Thanks again. And feel free to hang out. The bar's going to open, or the arcade is going to open up again soon. And yeah, thanks for coming out.